The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Welcome to the Stage Door Show, everyone. Now, tonight, I have the honor to have for the second time on our show a true living legend in the entertainment business. She continues to work and put out amazing works of art. And oh yeah, she's celebrating the 40th anniversary of her iconic #1 hit, Hey Mickey.
Hey Mickey! You've been around all night and that's a little long. You think you got the right, but I think you got it wrong. Well, can't you say goodnight so you can take me home, Mickey?
We're so lucky to have back on the show on iHeartRadio. Please welcome back Miss Toni Basil. Toni, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Dave, and it's so much fun to talk to you again. We had so much fun the last time, and we're going to have so much fun again.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? We talked about the 40th anniversary of Hey Mickey, which we're going to get into in a little bit, but I wanted to start because so much has happened since we've talked last, and I wanted to bring this up because I saw... And you've been with so many entertainers over the years and worked with, and choreographed and sang with and performed with so many people that you become dear friends with over the years. And one of your dear friends, Bette Midler, was just honored at the Kennedy Honors, and she won an award, obviously a Lifetime Achievement Award, but you accompanied her to that particular event, and I was excited to ask you about that. So that must have been an exciting experience for you.
It was so fabulous. Yes, the Kennedy Center Honors, and to be with my girlfriend, Bette Midler, who I have worked with since 1975.
Wow.
I don't know how many... maybe it's 9 concerts that I've choreographed for her and or co-directed with her, and a couple of videos, but not a lot of videos, more the concerts, always with her on all her television appearances. And I was actually honored to be with her on Johnny Carson's final farewell on the Tonight Show that he requested her to be on it, and I was there with her.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was really, to be at the Kennedy Center Honors, with the president in the room and, Nancy Pelosi, everybody up in the balcony, and there's Bette sitting there, and I accompanied her agent. I was her agent's date, and we had there was a big luncheon for the honorees earlier on in the day, and then she went over to get the that beautiful thing around her neck to be with the president, and then the evening event where the show was, and then there was a big dinner. It just went on and on and on and on.
Toni, speaking of that, we talked about, working with so many different legendary people like yourself. And, another person that has brought you up, recently in interviews is David Byrne. I know a lot of people from my era in the 80s and 90s. Remember David's work, and, you helped choreograph some of his work as well. So, there's, I think people, out there, my listeners, really need to know how iconic you are in not only this with your songs but your dance choreography. You work with so many different people, and I think that and just revolutionized street dance really with the Lockers and some of the people you worked with there, and kind of talk about working with so many different legendary people. Some of these people are getting honored. It's you had a piece of that.
Well, yes, PBS just did a half an hour interview on him because he's got that fabulous show on Broadway now, and he was just recently on Stephen Colbert promoting the show, and there he was teaching Stephen Colbert dance steps. I thought, in 1980, I can't remember when we shot Once in a Lifetime, but I thought, God, I would have never dreamed he would have been on a late night talk show teaching dance steps. so he had just referenced me with Twyla Tharp because I guess the interviewer was, asking him the other choreographers he had worked with. But and as he said, his is not choreography. It's not steps that you give to him. You work with somebody like him, or even like a David Bowie, as an actor, and you deal with it. And with Jagger, you deal with it, who are all actors, more in that respect. I think David researched. We went over to UCLA and we were researching people and in trances, and he was looking at those kind of pedestrian moves, but you can't call people in trances, pedestrian moves, but those ideas. It's not dance steps. And he really developed, for once in a lifetime, that persona that he worked off of. I co-directed that video with him. And I must say that I think I more co-directed that video with him, and he really more choreographed it, in the sense that he was picking out, ideas and movements that we were picking out movements that worked for him. And he just did such a brilliant job. It's so interesting to work with a Bowie or a Byrne or even a David Lee Roth. Gee, do I work with a lot of Davids?
And tonight as well.
And tonight as well, Dave. And Ben and Tina. And it's also interesting. They're all iconic. They're also individual. What they have in common is this unbelievable work ethic and a lot of research. Everybody does a lot of research and ideas. They come in armed and dangerous. And you better come in armed and dangerous to work with them, to keep up with them. But, it's their work ethic that is so high. And yet they come all from different angles. They approach their work so differently. And of course, that's because they're so different. And that's why they're so unique. But I got to say, when I do my own work and my own performing, if I didn't learn something from those people, then shame on me. Of course, I had a vaudevillian background with my parents and so much dance training and so much influence, of the American musicals. But still, to work with these people, you just can't help but come out with a lot of information.
Talk about the preparation. We talked about that just now, but when you talk about preparation and preparing for a performance and, choreography but we talked off air a little bit about this, but you kind of came up in the era where a lot of the performances on TV were lip synced, for whatever various production, right?
We lip synced everything, which I didn't mind because the more I was able to lip sync, the bigger I was able to dance.
Correct.
And I never felt as though we were cheating an audience, because in all these great American musicals, when you saw Fred Astaire in the movies, he's lip syncing.
Right.
Gene Kelly, they're lip syncing.
Right.
They're not singing live in those American musicals. But yes, everything from American Bandstand to, everything. And, I started to think about, Midnight Special wasn't lip sync. And then I realized, wait a minute. I think Midnight Special either went off the air before I had my hit, because I know that the Lockers were on Midnight Special, but I wasn't. And I think Midnight Special had just finished the year before, because I thought, that's one thing I would have been able to do live. But I was able to do Joan Rivers, which is on my YouTube channel. It's also on, which is my YouTube channel, as you know, is Toni Basil's House. And it's also on my Instagram, which is @official Toni Basil.
Right.
So that performance with the Hudson Brothers Band, it had a rock and roll feel to it. And it was so much fun. And I'm so glad I could find it to post it, because most people did not hear me sing live. The new song that I put out, well, it's a new old song from the late 70s called Wham. It's a song from 1938. That's that on my YouTube channel and on Instagram. That is also live because Kenny Ortega found it from the Jerry Lewis Telethon. And he sent it to me and he said, people should see this. You're dancing your butt off in heels in an evening gown and you're singing live.
Exactly.
And if you notice when you look at it, there's no monitors.
Right.
And there's no headsets. There was no such thing as an ear monitor at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, when I found ear monitors wasn't until way later. So the band was playing so fast. And the only reference, that I had was what I was hearing from the band from coming to me from back. And I there's no monitors. I don't know where the monitor is because I'm looking on the stage. There's some pretty wide shots. You don't see a monitor anywhere. It's like, how did I get through that one and even sing on pitch?
Yeah.
But it's a fabulous performance. And I'm excited to, look for some of these live performances because I did a lot of live shows, after the Lockers and before Mickey. I did some very, very popular live shows at the Roxy, where also I sang Wham on Saturday Night Live, but you have to go to my Vimeo to see me singing Wham live on Saturday Night Live because NBC flags everything. You can't post.
Right.
My career is trapped in clearances. But I'm excited for, people to see me singing live because it was all videos. By the time I was a video star, it was videos. Even my BBC specials, I'm not singing live. It's all video. It's all lip sync.
But think about, and I don't think people really appreciate what it takes to sing live, even with an ear monitor. But think about this, without ear monitors or monitors in front of you and you're singing live on television, and it's crazy to stay on pitch without a monitor.
Yeah.
And then just the preparation of dancing besides being winded.
Yeah.
It's just
actually,
amazing.
I think there's another one, but it happened later. Actually, it was a series that I did in the late, let me see, because I know one of the pieces that I did actually was nominated for an Emmy for the Smothers Brothers when they kind of had a revival. Smothers Brothers were huge in the 60s.
Oh,
and then they did a revival of their shows, of new shows. I was nominated for an Emmy 1987, 1988. And I did 3 pieces for them. And one was the Swan Lake piece that I did with 2 Lockers and 2 Electric Boogaloos and 4 classical ballerinas. But another piece I did was called Street Beat, and that was live. But I had a mic in my hand. I didn't have a headset, and I sure didn't have an ear monitor. That's for sure. And there's a lot of dancing. Oh, my God. It's a really phenomenal number. And yet, another number I did on that show, because I think there was a different producer by then. I did 4. I lip synced, and it was a Street Life. It was called Street Life. I just did what I was lip syncing on that one. Same series, but different producers. I think the early one was live, and then I don't know. It's a lot for this. Yeah. Don't ask me why it changed. It wasn't my idea.
Well, talk about Wham, because Wham, you have Rebop now, Wham Rebop, which is out on all streaming platforms. And not only is it the song is amazing, but you have T-shirts now that support it, and you also have, believe it or not, a cocktail that's gaining in popularity. So talk about the cocktail, because this is amazing to me.
No, it's so crazy. From Kenny Ortega saying, "Hey, people should see this."
When we bop, boom, bam, I can swing and I can jam. When we bop, boom, bam, I'm a killer till I, yes I am. When we bop, boom, bam.
my orchestra leader, Dave Storrs, he was at my house when we were looking at this video that Kenny had sent over. And I said, and he said, you know, you did this song, as I said. I did a lot of live shows. I did two. So I did some at the Roxy, and I did another one called Follies Bazaar at the Fox Venice. And that was a month long on every weekend for a month in June, I think in 88 or 78 or 79. Anyway, Dave said, well, Jerry Weintraub was your manager at the time, and he used to record everything. He said, I think we've got a recording of this Wham! And so he found a great recording of it, and we put it up on all streaming platforms. You have to look for it by Wham Rebop, because if you put Wham up, you get George Michaels.
Right. Yep.
You know, you just get George Michaels.
Yeah.
So then his friend, Michael Muffin, who's also a friend of mine, but he's also a video designer, and you know, he does a lot of videos for commercials and things. He said, you know, why don't you do a t-shirt? And I said, well, what am I going to use for a picture? And then I remembered when I did the David Bowie Diamond Dogs tour, I got the cover of After Dark. And we did several pictures for this cover. And I said, you know, I think I've got some pictures from this cover that Eric Stephen Jacobs did that I've never used. And so we found it, and we used that for the t-shirt design. So it's vintage, which is great, because I'm wearing peg pants and my hair's in 40s, and it works perfect because the song is from 1938.
Yeah.
And so the t-shirt's gorgeous. It's fitted. It's a stretchy t-shirt. There's a female one and a male one, but I love the male one too. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can get either. They're just t-shirts. They're fitted, they're gorgeous, and the artwork just kicks. It's so bright. The colors are phenomenal. So there's that. And then all of a sudden, I get this call from my friend, David Driscoll, the booze guru, because it seems like all my friends have vineyards and are developing wines or something. Jerry Casale, you know, from Devo, he's got two fabulous wines called 50 by 50.
Okay, great.
And he's a friend of David Driscoll's. That's how I know David.
Mm-hmm.
And David said, look, there's been a cocktail named after you. In Charleston, the head brewer of St. George's Spirits out here in California was by chance, serendipity, in Charleston. And he saw this cocktail in a magazine. It was called the Toni Basil cocktail. And he got in touch with David and said, see if Toni wants to run with the cocktail, because we have several spirits that are infused with basil. That was the basis of that cocktail.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're all infused with basil. Little did I know, I'm not really a cocktail drinker, you know?
Right.
And I said, well, okay, let's do it if we can call it Wham. Let's call it Wham. And then, wow, that took off. And I've had so much fun with that. You know, Wendy, the brilliant actress that plays Beverly on the Goldbergs.
I love her. I love Wendy.
Yes, I did she's genius. I did a podcast with her because she's always, you know, I guess this thing is people look at cocktails and then they do a version of it. You know, they change it. They add sparkling water, or they go from I don't know. Trust me, I don't know. Because I made a version of my Wham Rebop cocktail. That's actually on my Instagram. And I made a mocktail because I'm not really a drinker. So I created also for my non-drinking friends a mocktail, which is it's so fabulous. It's pear, it's basil, it's very dry ginger ale, it's got maple syrup in it. Oh, it's so fabulous.
Well, you can
And of
see it on your
course-
Instagram too. I think you actually
Yeah.
made one on your Instagram.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I made the with David Driscoll and the guy from St. George Spirits. I made the cocktail, but I also said, look, I'm making a mocktail too for my friends that don't drink. So yeah, all of a sudden, it's very interesting how all of a sudden something takes off. Something happens like the Jerry Lewis telethon, you put it out and it turns into a post and it turns into a song and it turns into a t-shirt and then it turns into a cocktail.
Absolutely.
Who would have known? I mean, so that's been a lot of fun. Actually, the guy, David J. originally from Bauhaus, that's a great English band from I think it's from the early 80s. He's coming over next weekend and we're going to do another version of his. He's got a version of of my cocktail.
Well, we can't wait to see that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just like it's reaching out to a whole audience that normally wouldn't know me. The Fork Report that's been on the radio for over 12 years. We did an interview on the Fork Report, and I know that reached a lot of people that had no idea because he does food, spirits and wine and alcohol and famous chefs. And all of a sudden I'm on that show because of my cocktail.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like so interesting how, the octopus all of a sudden has all these different tentacles and it reaches so many people.
Well, I think that's a testament to marketing your work as well. And as we have a lot of independent artists that listen to our show, and this is something that I always have a lesson in every one of my podcasts. I try to give them a lesson in coming up in the business, and that's why I have people like you, like legends of the entertainment world, come on and kind of tell their stories. And I think if they can get any kind of tidbits out of our podcast, I think anything that will help them along. And this is, I think, marketing is one of the biggest things. And if you can put a T-shirt out, or now you have a drink out, something that you think out of the box, I think, and then that's I think it just keeps growing from there.
Yeah, it's just it's an interesting way to reach people. I thought when social media happened, since I'm still so feeble with it, I thought it might leave me behind, but it's like it's dragging me with it, with the social media or the viral videos. I think things changed once they started to post me dancing at these events, because I judge a lot of international street dance competitions.
Right.
So the judges internationally, we kind of have to do a judge's demo before we judge the big final competition.
Sure.
To prove we are worthy.
Right.
I think this kind of started in Asia, and people started posting me dancing with my name, with my name and my age next to it, and man, did that take off!
Oh, for sure.
Her in her 70s dancing like this, and so you just all of a sudden you don't know. Yeah, I mean, and with the Mickey thing now that I swear to God, all of a sudden somebody sent me the other day, hey, I see it's the 40th anniversary of the release of Mickey. And I thought, it is? Because who keeps track of that? I mean, I know the date it became number one.
Right.
And that was the next year. So there'll be a 40th anniversary next year of the date it became number one in the USA.
Yeah.
But I went, oh my God, all right, well, let's run with this, and people started sending me things, and I started to post Joan Rivers live, me singing live on Joan Rivers, because nobody ever heard me sing Mickey live.
Right.
And then we found a great shout out from Pharrell, who was talking about using Mickey as the inspiration for Gwen Stefani's Hollaback Girl. That's on my Instagram page, and I can't thank him enough. How generous. He talked about it on Nightline, and I thought, wow, how generous, what a wonderful thing to do, to give me credit for inspiration, because gosh only knows how much inspiration Pharrell has given me to dance to his music and his fashion. And I mean, he's iconic. So that was fun. And then somebody reminded me that Avril, when she had her song out, which Rolling Stone references, I don't know, I think I sent you the little clipping where the Rolling Stone mentions Avril's song in relationship to mine, and also the Rolling Stone mentioned it. And she did Mickey on her drum set as an encore for that tour.
I saw that. Yeah, that was amazing. With this song being so recognizable, even to this day, I mean, young people know this song that weren't even around when I was coming up. And what has that meant to you? I mean, it's got to be an amazing feeling to have your work still 40 years later, still being recognizable.
Fun. It's very fun that it has become iconic.
Right.
It is very fun that it spans such a huge audience, young and old, because they're still doing it. Little kids dance to it for their little dance recitals or for their little cheerleader things. It's become so iconic, and it just hasn't gone away. It just hasn't gone away, and it's fun for me. I mean, I never thought when I was fighting the record company to say, I want to put this cheerleader chant on this song called Kitty, which, the record company was English, and they didn't even know what an American cheerleader was, no less what it would sound like. That it became a hit because of that chant. And interestingly enough, I did it on my first BBC special because it was released in the UK before it was released, a year before it was released in America. And it was the UK when I did Mickey on that special, but I did not do it with the cheerleaders. I did it with Spaz Attack, great punk dancer, and Shabadoo from the Lockers, and a punk band. And you can also see that on my YouTube channel, because that is what made it go to number one, not the cheerleader video. But what was great is then it became number one in Australia. And then when I got the American deal, I was armed and dangerous because I had put together those promotional videos before there was MTV. When I was putting together the album, which was in the 80s, and doing those promotional videos for the UK. The Manchester BBC saw the promotional videos in a record shop and asked me to do a special. And that's what kicked Mickey off.
Amazing. And the video, like saying it was before MTV. I mean, MTV wasn't even around. And when you did these, and when MTV became a big deal, you were really the groundbreaking piece of videos as we know them today, and just with Mickey. And I mean, that's still, people still pull this up. I mean, millions of views on Mickey, and this is really kind of where it all started.
Yeah, it certainly was the beginning of the girl dancer on MTV. Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? Also, what was so unique, and also so unique in Europe, once they started to see the Mickey video with the cheerleaders, is, people were used to seeing gorgeous jazz dancers, kind of, if they were dressed in a cheerleader outfit, but those were real cheerleaders from Carson High.
Okay.
And, they looked different because they didn't look like those jazz dancers.
Right.
They looked like American cheerleaders. And also the cheerleaders on the song were Dorsey High cheerleaders.
I was going to ask you about that. How did you cast that? So did you put was it like an audition, or how did you come up with that?
No. As I was developing ideas for the album, and I started to think how I used to love to hear, and how, hearing the stomps and the claps in a gymnasium with the cheerleaders. I always thought, because there were song leaders. Song leaders didn't stomp and clap. Song leaders used pom-poms and kind of danced.
Right.
But the cheerleaders stomped. They did the mounts. They climbed up on top of each other. And I always thought that was a haunting sound. And I thought, how can I make that happen into a song? Do you remember those songs by Shirley Ellis? The Name Game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Kind of, that was my only reference.
Right.
From the 60s. And it was a stretch. And finally I couldn't put it together. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll just put a cheerleader chant on a song. And I started to go to the cheerleader competitions, which they have all the time. And I went to a cheerleading competition in, I think it was at Crenshaw High. And I saw the Carson cheerleaders and I saw the Dorsey High cheerleaders. And they just wowed me, because I hadn't really, really seen cheerleaders, since I graduated in 1961. And all of a sudden I'm seeing how cheerleading had grown.
Right.
I mean, how funky it was, and the mounts that were being done. And I thought, wow, okay, this is, this will work great for these promotional videos. So That's how it got developed. And I got the names and the phone numbers of, the head cheerleaders at both schools, and contacted them. And those girls had no idea what I was talking about, because there was no such thing as videos.
Right.
So, yeah.
Little did they know, right?
Little did they know. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And look, little did I know.
Right.
And little did the record company know. I mean, it almost didn't happen. Well, I mean, the video was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Rock and Roll, yeah. Mm-hmm. One hit wonder.
Amazing.
Get to be that one hit wonder, and I'm happy to be it. I'm happy to be a one of anything.
But, with this song, I mean, obviously it's recognizable, but again, just the work that you've done in the entertainment business, and I know we talked about this last show, but for our new listeners, I mean, you really grew up in the entertainment business with your mom's family being in the vaudeville world, and your father being orchestra director for some of the most iconic acts out there, and you grew up with this.
He was the orchestra leader at the Chicago Theater for 10 years during the mid 40s through the 50s. So I stood on the side of the stage and saw everyone from Sinatra, Judy Garland, Josephine Baker, everybody. I stood on the side of the stage and saw these people live. And then, I don't know if your audience would be familiar, but it was called the era of stage shows. And that meant there was a live show with an opening act, which was usually a tap dancing act or a juggling act. And then the second act was a comic, and the third act was always a singer. And then the curtain would come down and there was a musical, like a musical movie. And then the audience would see that, and then they'd get rid of that audience and bring another audience in. And the same thing was repeated. My father did 4 shows a day.
Oh, wow.
And on the
weekend,
a day.
Wow.
4 a day. And on the weekend, if it was somebody like Sinatra, they would do 7 shows on the weekend.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
My dad did not have a day off. What they would do is he would have a month off once a year.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You talk about Broadway, 8 shows a week. And this is like in one day, you could have 7 shows.
No, I know. And then once stage shows closed down, we moved to Vegas because he had an immediate job as an orchestra leader at the Sahara Hotel until the day he passed away.
Wow. Such incredible.
Yeah, and that was a time period of Buddy Hackett and those kind of shows, the Rat Pack. Yeah.
Real
Yeah,
entertainment. I mean, that entertainment back then, even growing up and with me, growing up in the late 60s, early 70s, I used to go to a lot of these, like celebrity rooms, they used to call them, back in the day, where these traveling acts would come in, not necessarily vaudevillian acts, but just, entertainment acts that you'd see on the Tonight Show or shows like that. And just, those are some of my fondest memories, to see live acts like that. It's just a lot different now than it used to be.
Oh yeah. It's a rock concert. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different. And back in when my dad was the orchestra leader, in Vegas, you never had any rock and roll acts, or there was never that kind of act. I mean, it was a very big deal that Elvis was, appeared in Vegas at the time.
Right.
I mean, that big changeover, of J-Lo and Prince and people being residents, having a residency in Vegas, that didn't happen until over the last 10 years. I mean, we had a residency, at Caesar's Palace for 2 years.
Wow. Just incredible. And then for a lot of our listeners too, I mean, you were in a lot of those 60s, iconic 60s shows like Viva Las Vegas and Pajama Party and Lady with the Red Dress On. I mean, I look back and say,
you can
amazing.
Go to my YouTube channel.
Just amazing.
Go to my YouTube channel, Toni Basil's House, and you can see Toni Basil in the 60s. And yes, I worked with the great choreographer David Winters, who was one of the original dancers from from the original West Side Story. And we choreographed, I assisted him on Viva Las Vegas, many films. And then when he moved to New York to choreograph Hullabaloo, I started to be asked to choreograph movies myself. And that's when I stayed here and started to choreograph Village of the Giants and The Cool Ones. And yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, that was really fun. Those are kind of fun American musicals. They're fun. The 60s brought you a different kind of American musical. Before, previous to that, you had Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly and Mitzi Gaynor and Sid Charisse. You had those musicals. And then the 60s came and you had the Go-Go, the beach films.
Right. Yeah, just incredible work. And, we still love watching those films to this day. And, another thing I wanted to touch on before we go is your passion for animal rescue and your passion for animals, because that's something that's close to my heart as well. And, I wanted to kind of get into that a little bit, but, talk about the, as I know here where I live, there's an issue with, overpopulation of cats.
Oh.
Cats and and it's getting to the point where obviously there's groups around that are trying to help neuter and spay the cats and get them back out, and
you have to fix your animals.
Right.
You have to. It's just so necessary. When I moved to the house I'm in now in '94, there were so many feral cats in our neighborhood, and it took me 2 years to catch the mom and have her fixed.
Right.
And then the population went down. But before that, I think I must have fixed at least 10 cats in the neighborhood. You fix them and you get them, you release, and they hang around here. And I've had a lot of feral cats that have, become mine, that we've had fixed, that live in my dance studio.
Sure.
And then I have other cats that I've rescued from, kitten rescue and that kind of thing. I have 4 living in the house.
Right.
I rescued one that she's like 97 now in real people age.
Sure.
That I heard this baby kitten screaming in the basement of the Ralph's parking lot. And I just went, I know this is a kitten screaming, and I'm not leaving this basement until I find her. And I've had her ever since. I have right now 1, 2, 3, 4 rescues that live in the house. I have another feral that lives outside, Missy, that I've had for years. And I have a new rescue, Caravaggio, who I saw on Kitten Rescue, because I don't know, on my Facebook, what I do is when I see the animal, the rescuers that are saying this cat needs a home, this dog needs a home, this dog is lost. I do a lot of posting with lost dogs, or hey, we found this dog, we don't know who owns it. So I do a lot of that posting, and I ran across this cat that made me crazy. And they called him Little Panther, and he was sitting up on his hind legs. I mean, he was posing.
Yeah.
And he was a baby, and I thought, wow. And then I found out that he was in LA and he was in Culver City, and I could go visit him, and I couldn't resist. And, once again, I visited him 3 times, and I went, oh, I want this one. Well, this cat, Caravaggio, I'm telling you, I need to start a TikTok. I need to start an Instagram. He's the smartest
personality,
smartest cat. He's the smartest cat I've ever had.
Yeah.
He's, he fetches.
Oh,
like a dog. He's a rescue from Istanbul, actually.
Oh, wow.
And they live on the rooftops in Istanbul. So he kind of he jumps on the top edges of my door. He totally entertains me. And he's brought in so much fun and spirit to my other cats.
Sure.
Because he's very present. He's smartest. Don't tell my other cats, but he's the smartest cat I've ever had. And, I must say he's the light of my life, but we have to whisper. We have to whisper that, because the other cats will get jealous. But he's something else.
Yeah.
I have some funny pictures of him, and I've just got to get an Instagram together of him, or a TikTok. But I tell you, I can hardly keep up with my own social media.
I hear you.
I mean, all these people that are social media stars and YouTube stars, I mean, they have people that help them.
Right. Exactly.
It's a full-time job.
Absolutely.
It's a full-time job. And, but I just have a feeling he could be my retirement fund if I just did it right.
Well, I'm so happy that you do that with the animals, and I know a lot of our listeners feel the same. And it's just about being responsible, and that's the biggest message, I think, is the spay and neuter and make sure we control the pet population, right? I mean,
all the women and the men that actually do actual rescues, I mean, I rescue in my neighborhood, fix them, but there are people who really, do rescues, and they are devoted. It becomes a full-time job. Yep. They put out their own money. Yeah. It's, but you guys, you've just got to spade and neuter your animals.
Absolutely.
It's just not fair to the animals, and to the population.
Correct.
It's just not fair.
You're right.
So I'm glad you mentioned it, because there's kitten rescue. There's all sorts of rescue that you can go on Facebook and look up. And I'm always posting, lost cat in New York, or this cat needs a home. It's all, the rescue is all over the United States.
Right.
So I since I have an international and a big audience, I post, and I just keep my fingers crossed that maybe, it'll help.
Absolutely. And everything does help. I can't thank you enough again, Toni, for being on our show for the second time, and really looking forward to what you have coming out next.
Well, we're gonna have another one on the 40th anniversary of the it being #1. And I can tell you, because I have the billboard thing somewhere here up on the wall. It was December 11th, 1982. So we're going to be doing another one.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, 1982. We'll do another one on that 40th anniversary.
Well, I'm looking
That one
forward
I
to that.
remember. That
Yeah.
one I remember because I remember getting the gold record, and I was with my friends, Allie Willis. I remember all of that. So I kind of remember. But when they said, "Oh, it's the 40th anniversary of the release,"
Mhm.
I went, "Really?" Because I guess Mickey was released, and it's not the 40th anniversary of the album release in the USA, because that was before Mickey, and then the album was released in the UK a year before that.
Right. So it was actually
And me
the
being
41st year.
dyslexic, I would never remember any dates. But anyway,
Well,
so much fun to talk to you again, Dave. I can't thank you enough. It was just really fun, and I'm just glad to reach out to, your audience and just fill them in on all these new things, and to go to my my YouTube channel to keep up with me on my YouTube channel at Toni Basil's house, to
Right.
keep up with me on the Instagram, which is official
Toni Basil.
Toni Basil.
Mhm.
I've been tweeting more about the Americans that have been winning in the Olympics,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
but you can keep up with me.
Well, ToniBasil.net as well. And now you t-shirts, merchandising.
Toni Basil. You're right.
Absolutely. Yep.
ToniBasil.net. You can go to the merch page.
Yep.
And there's T-shirts from Mickey, from the After Dark cover, from the Wham. There's T-shirts and images from each decade of my career.
Amazing work over these decades, and can't thank you enough for being on the show. And again, we're gonna keep posting new stuff that you have out, and
Thank you.
My listeners, we're looking forward to this one.
We are going to have another song coming out, a song that I actually recorded in 1967
Wow.
called Breakaway.
Okay.
And that's the next one. That's the next one. I'm starting to put out songs that people have never heard me sing, that were recorded or performed live, that we have recordings of. Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
that's going to be the next one, called Breakaway. And it actually became a Northern Soul hit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it's really fun. It's a great song. It's on my YouTube channel, but it's not yet posted.
Right.
It's not yet posted on all streaming platforms, but it will be.
Well, we're looking forward to that, Breakaway. So we'll be watching for that. Again, 40th anniversary of the release of Hey Mickey in the U.S. And again, can't wait to see what's next. And thank you again, Toni, and always a pleasure.
Hello to your family and your dancing daughter.
Thank you, appreciate it. Just a huge fan. So again, thank you so much, and wish you nothing but the best. And can't wait for the next
Thank
time.
you. So much fun. Talk to you very soon.
Hey Mickey, you've been around all night and that's a little long. You think you got the right, but I think you got